If you know me in real life, no you don't. I want to talk about ANIMUSIC, you guys. It's been too long. We've forgotten. Wayne Lytle, David Crognale, they're out there in the world running amok, frankly. And we're left here to pick up the pieces. If you haven't experienced this, you must. Early 2000s CGI animation, robots, prog rock. If you're familiar with the piece and you're a fan of it like I was when I was a kid, I'm sure you've seen many a video about it from the perspective of either the tech or the company itself, or Wayne Lytle's ADHD and not being able to keep up with the demand for ANIMUSIC 3. But I want to get real here. I want to get real here for a second. Nobody's talking about the art itself. The strength of the composition, the catchy melodies, the imagery, the character design. Does the sound match what is coming out of the instruments that we're watching? Does the production itself sound good? Is it too MIDI? And does the arrangement of the song have a nice dramatic arc? Are we satisfied at the end? Have we gone on a hero's journey of some sort? And so the goal of this is I just want you to live inside my brain just for a second. Just to get this out of the way, I'm gonna give the usual disclaimer that, of course, this is not my own opinion. This is objective fact. This whole video, everything in it is correct. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong, actually. Seriously though, go check out the videos first. Go watch ANIMUSIC 1 and 2 if you haven't already. Go and do that and then come back and then we'll be together here in the same space and we'll hold hands and oh, it's gonna be lovely. Are you ready? Future retro. Okay. In fucking credible start. I feel really brought into the world here. Right up at the top, we have this like amp fuzz. It feels like I'm on a roller coaster. It feels like I'm on the incline to a roller coaster. Like I don't know what's gonna happen, and there's all this pent up potential energy, and then enthralling. No? And look at this guitar. Look at it. It's so iconic. There's so much personality here. It's so nuanced. You'll see this later. There's a bit of a limiting factor that you can't have both of the guitars in this instrument playing at once because there's only one picking hand apparatus thing. There's only one plectrum, but that has to be shared between them. But even still, like, look at this drummer. Look at this drummer. Look at the fucking swagger that this homeboy has. Like, incredible backline for a otherworldly top line. And like the attention to detail, like immediately, the amp stacks in the back, visualizing the guitars and the bass, and they're color coded. Oh my god. I love the bass octaves, like lasers shooting out of the bass guitar of the guitar thing. And the freaking lightning ass bridge that comes out of nowhere. I've never heard anybody be able to make that dumb ass early 2000s choir keyboard patch hip. Like, how did they do that? Terrible. I also can't with this little whammy bar section. And we still have more surprises. Like, we're this far into the song, and now the drummer's playing like xylophone, and like absolutely my favorite part. Meow. Meow. Like it just keeps building. Like this little descant, the like lead, like, oh my god, so good. And a nice tasteful crossfade, a nice tasteful fade out as we ascend out into the. So yeah. Future retro, super strong start, like very, very good introduction to the world of ANIMUSIC, which means future retro clearly gets an A tier. Damn right, motherfuckers, are doing the tier list. What do I look like to you? Stick figures. This, we know that says good vibes, right? This is there's so much on my dress. It's literally my bedroom. Okay. Yeah, I'm wearing pajama bottoms. Thank you very much. It has a little bit occurred to me that many of you probably are just like completely confused. So just as a general overview, ANIMUSIC, the company, was founded in 1990 by Wayne Lytle, headquartered in Ithaca, New York, under the original company name Visual Music. Lytle had a particular affinity for 3D animation, specifically 3D visualization of music. And with his partner in crime, David Crognale, they were able to really pave the way for a brand new method of 3D visualization of music using MIDI technology. See, I'm becoming the video I didn't want to make. To keep a super long story short, MIDI is a type of it stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And basically what they were doing was, instead of like animating the 3D whatevers to play the music, because that would take a lot of time, they used MIDI to drive the animation, which nobody was doing. Nobody had figured out a way to do it. This is how all the visualization of the music can be super accurate. Like, you don't need to go in and keyframe each individual finger on the neck of the guitar. You could just like have the MIDI tell the guitar what to do and it'll do it. That's like a super simple description of what they're doing, that just like to give a little bit of context. Cool. Now that we're all up to speed, let's go back and talk about stick figures. This will for sure be the first time we see like a dedicated, definitely like a protagonist. Like this Mr. Stick, whatever, I think they just call him the Stick. Some people call him Mr. Bassman. Just incredibly charismatic. I'm getting good vibes. So 10 points to Gryffindor for our protagonist, but 10 points away from Gryffindor for having no animated drummer. Just what? What are these floating sticks? Like, huh? Come on. Give me a dude. Give me a guy. There's something interesting about the mechanics of these instruments, though, that I want to point out. This will be a trend moving forward. Look at this. Look at this. So these are multi-stringed instruments, and you'll notice that usually they'll all be tuned, all of the strings will be tuned to the same note. Obviously, this is not how it works for real instruments because fingers can only stretch so much, but we're not talking about the ergonomics of human fingies. We're talking about the ergonomics of robot session musicians. So in the world of these robots, in the world of ANIMUSIC, in the diegesis, this is what works for them. But let's talk about the actual composition for a second, because listen to the chord progressions. Listen to the A section chord progression. Now listen to the B section chord progression. The A is stationary and the B moves around. Like that's how you do it. It's just like textbook songwriting, textbook composition. And the key change between the two is so delicious. And extra points for the little but then, uh-oh, what's going on here? So we've established the feel, we've established where we're at, and now we're just going somewhere totally different. We're exploring what we can do with this instrumentation. We're really telling a story. We're getting into the nooks and crannies. It is effective, and I like it. I like it a lot. It does a little bit come out of nowhere in a way that feels like the energy kind of drops for a second, which didn't happen for Future Retro. It just kind of went up and up and up and up and up. And it might be, it's just a different, like, it's just doing a different role. It's just like fulfilling a different purpose. But I don't know if I like it better. Like, it doesn't gel fully with the first feel to me. I don't know. But the transition out of it is really strong. We're getting back into the groove, but the cello is still droning. Like, I like that a lot. And yes, we love a shout fucking chorus. And then we pulling out all the stops, we're getting everybody playing, and it's awesome. And then we have another crossfade, which like, I feel like to do it twice in a row for the first two ones, I don't know. I think it works for the DVD, but I don't know. So yeah, stick figures, pretty good, B tier. Moving forward, I just want to give, I'm gonna give a disclaimer. The bar is high. The bar is high. All of these could be A and S tier, but there's got to be some scale, right? Aqua Harp. Oh, we get stars and it's a harp and water. Ugh. I don't know, man. It's just disembodied everything again. It's just like the picks floating in midair and the bows floating in midair and then the mallets floating in midair. And also, I feel like it's weak that we're just kind of like in a room. Like it's just like the walls are painted. Like it doesn't look like a landscape. It's just like, oh, here I am in a little enclosed, it's like claustrophobic almost. And what I'm about to say really bothers me, and it's gonna come up a bunch with some of the later ones. Why are we strictly alternating? It's so inefficient. Look at how far these picks are traveling. Like, you don't need to be doing that. At least the notes are super consistent as far as I can tell. Like, all the strings are consistent with what note they are, and they stay that way the whole time, and it's the same with the up at the top. Fine. In the interest of a compliment sandwich. I guess this is a reverse compliment sandwich, because I'm gonna give the nice thing in the middle. In the interest of doing an insult sandwich. In the interest of doing a criticism sandwich. I like the lighting. I like the shadows. And I think the tempos are gorgeous. I think the musical expression here, the tempo mapping, the click track, I think was great. But I don't like the sounds of this one. Like, I think the windpipe thing at the top is one of the more egregious MIDI-y sounding instruments. Same with these tubular bells at the bottom, these chimes. I fucking hate these chimes. They just sound so intrusive to me, and it sucks because they love these tubular bells. They show up in fucking every track. Maybe it's just a me thing. Maybe they don't bother you, but they bother me. Also, like, I don't like the mix of this one. I think the strings are way too loud. I don't like how the cello, like the lower string part, was orchestrated at all. You're playing, you're the bottom voice. You're the lowest thing that we're gonna hear. You're the bass roll, and you're playing the thirds of the chords in what should be a root position. Like, I don't understand. Just not effective string orchestration, in my opinion. It might just be the fact that it's inherently flawed when your foreground instrument is a harp. Like, that is a background instrument, unless there's nothing else happening. I do think the sections are cool, though. I like the song, I like the composition, I like the chord progressions. I think it works really well, there's a good flow, and it doesn't fade out. There's a nice proper ending, we resolve, there's a nice pretty shot of the moon. It's nice, it's pretty, it's not very good. For ANIMUSIC, D tier, come at me. This is fun. I'm having fun. Drum machine. Now we're talking. This one tells such a story with just percussion and barely any pitched percussion, like none at all. This one feels very like, get your head in the game. Like these gears set up this groove. It feels like I'm watching that episode of Phineas and Ferb where I ain't got rhythm.
So you're saying that you don't have rhythm?
And these grooves here are not necessarily conventional. They're very creative. I just want to break down the like exposition here because I think this is a great example. At this point, we're starting to really see the pattern of how Lytle and Krognall like to organize the energy of like how these arrangements come to be. You get acquainted with the gimmick, you see it develop in real time, and you don't need to do it super out of time. You can do it in rhythm with a beat following a tempo. It's just so masterful, even down to visually, like, look at these drum heads. There's wear on them from where the sticks are smacking the drum heads. I'm pointing this out now. It'll happen a bunch. They are really good with making these worlds feel lived in, which is so important when you're dealing with non-human robots. So yeah, we see one piece of the drum kit get added at a time, and as they all come in, it's like really satisfying. And then this fucking cowbell! Look at it and listen to it. That's not where you hit a cowbell. This is my deodorant, pretend it's a cowbell. The stick is hitting it here, but you have to hit it against here like this. And that's what we're hearing, but it's not what we're seeing. I know that's a stupid thing that nobody cares about except me, but god damn it, I care about it. Literally everything else about this one though is so cool. Like check out this tom fill. And the little details, like this little snare roll right here. So tasteful, so good. And then this big moment of clarity right in the middle where the tempo changes and the time signature changes. And now we're in 5/4 or 10/4 or whatever. And I like, this is another thing we'll see as a pattern, is that when they do odd times, specifically when they do 5, they like to do 4 plus 1 versus like doing any kind of like doing a 3 plus 2 thing. They'll do like a phrase of 4, like a full bar of 4/4 or 2 bars of 4/4, and then 1, like 1 extra to complete the 5. I think this works for the progginess of it, and it works for the robotiness of it. Like it works for the aesthetic of ANIMUSIC. You know what I mean? I also really like these percussion samples. The timbales sound delicious. The timpani sound okay. And here are these freaking bells again. I don't like these bells. I don't like these bells. What I do like about it in this moment, though, is its contribution to this big kind of euphoric, this grand finale feel. I like that it's big and robust, and we're pulling out all the stops kind of thing. It's like that thing at the end of a fireworks show where they're just like, here's all of our ones that we have left. But dude, this tom fill, and I like the little details at the end, man. Like there's a little hi-hat close just to remind you what you're dealing with. And the gears slowing down and closing, and then it's just so exciting. Like very clear rising action, climax, falling action right at the end. Like it's very orgasmic. Can I say that? Thus concludes what I would call Act 1 of Disc 1. We get a nice fade to black, very classy. Drum Machine absolutely gets a well-deserved A tier. Because I ain't got rhythm. Now, okay, if you've seen ANIMUSIC at all, it's probably because of this next one, Pipe Dream. I want to be very clear here, S tier. right off the bat. I feel like its popularity almost kind of speaks for itself, but let's get nitty gritty with this one, I think. All of the thematic elements I've been talking about so far, I think are at a pinnacle here. Like truly a perfect narrative arc, exposition of the gimmick and exploration of it, just firing on all cylinders. And this is a time-honored tradition of the gimmick being like a delay amount. Bing gonging. Bing gonging. That's the pattern. I'm thinking of Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses. Rain by Rob Scallon. Other examples?
So you can see the delay effect. Whatever you play, it just throws back at you.
And what's unique about this one is we don't have a well, I guess we have a protagonist. We have this one, the first one. But we have no humanistic, we have no humanoid representation. Like this is inanimate. This is an inanimate room, seemingly. No robots, none of that. And yet the launching of these balls out of their pipes, it's just, it's expressive, it's organic, it's spontaneous, it's bursting with personality and potential. When you watch this, you get the sense that all of these different like stations have a dialogue with each other. Like they all have pipes that connect with each other as if they're sending messages to each other. It's like a jam session where you can communicate with head nods and facial expressions and pointing. If you're a jazz musician or a pop musician, this is a game of charades that you're very familiar with. And when you watch these inanimate balls flying out of pipes, you get a sense that this chemistry is there in the room. It's very palpable. I know I said there's no humanoid representation here, but it really feels like these pipes are very sentient. We have more of the wear on the drums, all of the bongos at the bottom of the stringed shits. I feel like that also contributes to this feeling of chemistry we have to this band. It's like they've been playing together for years. And musically too, I feel like this one especially feels very improvised, very spontaneous. It's not rehearsed. Everybody's soloing and conversing with each other. The production also is so perfect. Like it feels like cavernous and dystopian. There's lots of reverb, but it's also dry enough that it feels like you're right there in the room. And it doesn't sound like the room is big either. It sounds like it looks. It sounds like it's just echoey, made of plaster. It's like an old warehouse. I'm filled with the feeling of like, when you look at the back rooms, like 2000s era dark empty hallways and shit, like what's that aesthetic called? It's like an old possessed factory that came to life and decided to make prog rock. Or maybe in this case it's like pop, jazz, fusion, prog. It's like Steely Dan. It's like Steely Dan. It really does. Like it feels like I'm watching Snarky Puppy back up Corey Henry. Like this vibe solo is so yeah, I don't like the chimes. They don't bother me as much here because they're used kind of sparingly. And everybody else gets out of the way. We're leaving room for the terrible chimes. And it's especially crazy how expressive this like marimba, I think it's a marimba, we're dealing with each marimba. What are they called? The marimba is a musical instrument in the percussion family that consists of wooden bars. Is it just a bar? I guess it's a bar. Each bar coming up one by one. And we're dealing with flying balls thrown at a set speed. Which means that when they were composing this solo, they had one velocity value to deal with because it's, you throw it and then you can't, you know what I mean? And so an instrument with those limitations is just so much more impressive that this solo is as expressive as it is. And the vibes is playing off of the marimba, and the marimba is playing off the vibes, and they're using like bebop, like chromatic ideas. And then this big unison line to finish it out, and Home Slice number 1 has this last little doom, doom, doom. It's just so humble. It's so handsome.
So handsome, so in tune.
And like, this is the thing about me, is that I like compositions that are less through composed and more like songs with form. This is my one exception. Even though this was really just a big old jam session, that's kind of what's special about it. Like, that's what gives it its charm. The fact that the environment is so inhuman, so removed from human contact, but the music is so expressive and spontaneous and blah, blah, blah. No notes, 5 stars, 11 out of 10. Would pipe dream again. S tier. Thank you, Jesus. And that, my friends, is not only an S tier composition, but that is the S tier composition for ANIMUSIC 1. I like arbitrary rules. What can I say? Each disc gets 1 S tier. How you doing at home? You playing along? Oh, you can see my window AC unit that I'm not using is just on the floor. Oh my God, and the weather stripping. That's embarrassing. Acoustic Curves. Okay, so we just had the utterly transcendent pipe dream. Now we have this one. It's also very emergent in terms of its gimmick. I like this mechanical sound. It scratches my brain. This chord progression I like. It's very dynamic. I also think it's very reflective of the instrumentation because we're using like harpsichords and this kind of like, it feels very classical, for lack of a better word. It feels very Mozart. And I like how these two opening instruments play off of each other. I like their dialogue. I'm also going to be picky here. I don't like how this harpsichord is EQ'd. The hammer action one, I think it's a little bit too harsh in the highs for me, but There's something about this one though that I feel like I'm being edged the whole time. It's just going back and forth between this rubato thing and the chord progression. So there's never that like real release, you know? But there's some really cool moments. I like when the mutes get activated. That's a really cool moment. How rad is that? And I like these fourths. The drums, though, I guess I like the toms. They just feel flat. No, but I know it's their curves. It's stupid. It's like a little lackluster of a part. My favorite part, though, is this little breakdown section that happens like in between this main riff and we get back to the first melody. Love that. I guess it's cool that with an apparatus like this, you get to do fun things like do slap bass in 3 different octaves. So that's kind of fun. I also like that the bass has picks and also hammers. And absolutely, let's go. These vibes are sexy. I have a crush on these vibes. They are pretty though. They're satisfying to watch. They're satisfying to listen to. I like the sound. This whole thing is kind of satisfying to watch. It's like those finger guys where they're like, I can't do it. You know what I'm talking about. It's the white gloves and they light up and they do these routines.
Fly to the right.
But specifically fuck these chimes in particular. Like their overtones are so apparent that when I was a kid, I literally thought I couldn't hear the fundamental. I thought that the overtone was the note, and I thought we were doing a polytonal situation. And I like this big rallentando at the end. It feels very good. It feels very classic. Like they all pack up and go. They're like, okay, and here we go. But I don't know. I still feel like I was edged the whole time. I never got to finish. I like it, but I guess a C, it's fine. So hot take, this is a video of hot takes. Harmonic Voltage. I think this one's my personal favorite. Like, it's honestly hard for me to even be objective here because wow. In case you're missing it, the haze is what's giving the poly pad. Poly pad is what I call my apartment. No, it's not. This is a joke. The like harmonic pad that's like the background is what the haze is. Isn't that so cool? And then this dude. I want to be this guy. I want to be him. Jesus Christ, I love this mode. This like mixo flat six, like melodic major kind of thing. And there's no snare drum in the drum set. How do they do it? It grooves so much. How do they do that? I guess these are the snares, actually. These like little red drums that are like by the side. No, because those are like, I feel like this is the equivalent of like a clap stack. Also obsessed with the pew. 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 I love that the bass is these little rings in the middle. I love that so much. I guess when I get to like halfway through this one, I wish there was a little bit more development. It feels a little bit A-B, and like nothing was different the second time that we go through it. I guess the parts are a little bit busier the second time, but I'd love it to have a little bit more instrumentation. I don't know. But this guitar solo changed my brain chemistry. It's like the middle of this like scary, spooky, spacey thing. We're getting like this like blues, this like bluesy electric guitars. It's like it's like here comes Eric Clapton to like take an electric guitar solo. And I'm saying guitar to give it the like real world analog. Obviously, this is I don't even know. But these little yellow things, this little doop, 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 boop, 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 boop. Terrifying. Another brain chemistry altering event. Bow. I love that we're using harmonics. I wish there was a better way to animate that than just it moving, because that's not how it is on the guitar, but whatever. And we get back to the mode of the A section with this delicious oh my God, it's so euphoric. It's like coming home. It's so warm. It's so, I love it. I love it so much. And this was the first time I noticed it. There's the big bass. There's the ring bass outside. That's like the sine, like low, like sub. And then there's this like funky little bass in the middle. Two basses for the price of one. And then an incredibly infectious outro. Just a lovely, just gets a little bit brighter. Just to make sure we end on a more hopeful note. And then the tune feeds into the credits, which I think is very smart. Even though it's my personal favorite, it's getting an A tier. And that, my friends, is ANIMUSIC Disc 1. Good vibes. How are you doing? How are you doing? Let's just take stock here. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're with me. I've got you. Here you are in my hand. I'm gonna put you in my pocket. Let's go grab a snack and then we'll come back and continue. Yeah, I can upgrade my setup in the middle of the video. You can't stop me. And yeah, I can film during the day. Fuck you. Don't tell me what to do, Mom. The water jugs are for my humidifier, but I'm out right now. A little bit need a haircut. A little mullety. All right, okay. Oh boy. You ready to jump back in? Because I'm ready to jump back in. Okay. Oh boy. All right. Starship Groove. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 2005, and boy, does it ever feel like it. So perpetual mobile bassline in 7, but it's like it's like 7 big beats. Immediately, we see this huge jump from disc 1. The character design is absolutely leveled up, and they're able to bring out personality in like very subtle, beautiful ways. This one also in particularly, we're really getting that like techno optimist, like mid 2000s, early internet, like early social media, like early YouTube age technological optimism. It's the futuristic glasses. It's the bright LEDs on everything. Like they're in a fucking spaceship, for crying out loud. And here comes in fucking Patrick. And while we're here, we have more of this strict alternation right and left. But here it's fine because they have less distance to travel between. It's just like literally their bodies. So it makes more sense for them to, like, it would be more awkward for them if they were keeping one hand up here and one hand down there and going doo-doo, like, you get it. And God, these parts work so well together. And the minute you think that you're good with just these characters, boom! A new player has arrived, a tritagonist. I also love these like maxi projections of each individual part. It's like getting a better view, like a bird's eye view of what they're all playing, and I love it. It's like watching a score follow along video on YouTube where you're like listening to the arrangement and like reading the score as it goes by. Like those transcriptions of solos that people do on TikTok.
There's a bee in here. Can you take it up here?
I am like halfway in though, and I feel like I want a little bit more of a chord progression. So far, they've kind of just been jamming on this like Mixolydian thing. There's some chromatic things, there's some sharp 4s, there's some flat 6s, and there are dynamics throughout. Like there are distinct sections, but there's parts of it that feel like they're just playing with different GarageBand loops, turning them off and on. Also, there are these random towers on the sides that I think are just showing quarter notes. It's a cool decoration, but I can't tell if they're actually contributing to anything we're hearing, so I'll take a couple of points off for them being just kind of extraneous. I want to be hearing everything I'm seeing, and I want to be seeing everything I'm hearing. Thank you very much. But I'm going to give those points right back for Patrick going like this. And this drop down and build is so... I hope you've been taking shots every time I say the word delicious. It's so epic though, like the lights and the... And look at the way that the drums are animated to like physically react when they're being hit. Like it's so energetic. And when they do this little breakdown in the middle, I love when they look at each other and they're like, hell yeah. But the finale is a little bit just motifs we've already heard before. But overall, a really strong start to disc 2. I love that the spaceship just kind of goes off into deep space. I have to give it another A tier, man. The A tier is going to be stacked, and you're just going to have to figure out a way to be okay with that. Pogo Sticks. Spectacular, marvelous, oh my god. And I'm sure immediately you're like, hey, they seem familiar. It's Buddy from Stick Figures, remember him? But they've developed. They're more complex. Listen to that synth guitar tone. And like immediately this is another one where I'm like seeing the chemistry between everybody. I'm picking up on years of specific interpersonal relationship dynamics. Like how new everyone is to this group, the emotional role that they play in this squad, this pod of pals. Tell me you do not look at this and go, I want a friend group like that. That aside, we get 2 musical sections before they leave the first shot. We haven't even cut away yet. It's been 30 seconds. We've had a whole intro, A section, B section. And finally, here comes our top line. I love their little pit stops too. It's so cute. Just a second to check themselves out. It's like they're bar hopping. And what a fun surprise the glow in the dark is. And here comes Big Guy's girlfriend we're picking up. And this girl can hang. It's so cool we get to see them play this unison line together because their notes go in different directions. His notes go low to high, and hers go high to low. And yeah, sure, babe, your brother can tag along. It's cool. Like, look at this and tell me this is not squad goals. This is me and my crew out on a Saturday night. And look at them literally all turn around to be like, yeah, look at us. Hey, check us out. Oh, us? This is just the crew. And off they go. Where are they going? Nobody knows, but they are about to fuck shit up, that's for sure. This is, and always will be my favorite one from both of the discs. Would be a disservice to you, frankly. I'd be being dishonest if I didn't top tier this one. There's so much development. It's got so much personality. It's so addicting to watch. Anyway, shall we go on? Resonant Chamber. So this one is divisive. I like it quite a bit. The composition is very, very good. The music definitely fits the theme visually, which is creepy. It's a bit off-putting, actually. The song form reminds me of Acoustic Curves a little bit. There's a few distinct sections and they're all different tempos and like each section is its own feel, you know? With this one though, more so than the other numbers that we've had so far, I'm most drawn to thinking about anatomics. Stay with me here. Obviously this is mechanical, but it feels very lucid when you watch it. And in that case, is this one full being with one brain? Is it that each part of this apparatus is one being? Or is each individual plectrum, each fretting finger, I don't know, what would be analogous to that on a human hand? Is each one of those its own conscious creature? Because if so, that's incredibly precise coordination and movement between this band of, at this point, probably 40 or 50. But then, does that mean that this whole contraption is an empty shell, a carcass, which would imply that all of these fingers are parasitic or fungal, because that means they would be able to communicate through what is likely some sort of central nervous system, but they can still all sort of be autonomous. It reminds me of how trees are. Because, like, technically a forest is one organism since the roots of the trees are all connected. If that's the case, though, then is there a band leader? Because each instance of consciousness in this scenario is so minute. It's such a small part of the greater whole. I guess I should liken it to human fingers, hands, and feet. But the problem I have with that is that my fingers don't think. I need a brain. Or do they? Like, I guess they do. I guess they do, because if I put my hand on a hot stove, it's the thing of, like, your hand will retract before the message reaches your brain. That's how nerves work. That's why you have nerves and a central nervous system. So then maybe this is one creature, one consciousness with upwards of 20 or 30 or 40 flexible jointed limbs. That's not even to mention how much of a fucking nightmare it would be to change all these strings. Like, look at them all crossing over each other. Like, this would be a bitch to tune. And there are like 4 windows right there, and they all have different moons, so I'm sure the humidity and temperature is all off. And it is just gorgeous music, but I unfortunately can't give it any higher than a B. Just because of how unsettled I am at this moment. Anyway, let's move on as soon as possible. Cathedral Pictures. I don't know if this is points off for being an arrangement and not an original composition. But at the very least, that's new and novel for ANIMUSIC. It's the only one. I do love this drum guy. But the overall picture of this one is just a little static for me. Like, they're giving us camera angles, but it's a pretty unmoving set. In tone, though, I think this whole piece is a little incongruous, unfortunately. Like, I generally do like this one. I remember it fondly, but when I watch it right now for this video, it's a little... I like the more ANIMUSIC-y elements, though. The lasers, the air from the pipe organ shooting off, the big explosions toward the end, and the arrangement itself is not bad. Like, it's semi-effective. There's just something about the energy here that doesn't really land for me. I don't really have much to say other than that. Like, all this spectacle towards the end feels a little bit like, I don't want to say polishing a turd, because it's not a turd. I'm just not feeling it, you know? I don't know, man. It's okay. The double kick is fun. I have to put it at a D tier. That's just what I have to do. Only because my standards are so high, and I think Wayne Lytle is a terrific composer. And it was a good piece to choose. I don't know. But hey, would you look at this? Pipe Dream 2? Okay. Look, this time around... I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being so unenthusiastic with these past few. It's good. It's good. It's fine. I just feel like it builds from zero way too quickly. I think for me, they're resting too hard on the folks that are already familiar with the first one. And while it's true, we probably don't need as much setup for a sequel. Like, we know what's going on here. We know the gimmick. It's also not as satisfying to not be taken on the same journey. Like this whole time I'm sitting here thinking like, I'd rather be watching the first one. There is more wear on the walls, like clearly some time has passed. I like the additional world building there. But they neglected some key things about the world. Like here, take a look. When Mr. Banjo comes in, each one of his strings are more than one note. Physically impossible. And this was easily able to be masked in the first Pipe Dream because anytime this banjo guy was playing, the notes were flying by so fast. But here it's like only one note at a time, and you can clearly see one ball, one string, two notes.
That makes no fucking sense.
Not buying it. Not buying it. There are some things here that I do like, though. Like the melody, once we get into it, is really nice. And it's something that we didn't really get the first time around, which I appreciate that for sure. And this one might be particularly picky, but is there weird tuning stuff here? Like there are some notes here and there that I'm like, that doesn't sound... Like that intonation is off, right? That's not just me. Is it the overtones? Are the overtones like equal tempered, but they should be just? I don't know. This one is weird vibes to me. But it'll get points for being based on an immaculate concept. And with all of its flaws, still a banger. Slotting it in the C tier. I hope this isn't distracting. It's a little inflatable tube guy. Might need new batteries. Fiber bundles. Under fucking rated. Makes my brain go brrr. Very impressive dramatic arc here. I have a lot to say. Truly, we're doing so much with so little. Like, it almost has the spontaneity of the first Pipe Dream. Do you get what I'm saying? And there are similar mechanics as well, but totally, obviously, a different genre. Much less grounded in realism and more grounded in sci-fi fantasy. Like incredibly synthesized, but there's a lot here in the music composition and the visuals that still makes it feel organic and grounded. Like this synth pad patch in the beginning. These green, capsules. Just the sound of it is really engrossing. I think the main theme with this one is about contrast. We're juxtaposing this visual language of these long connected wires and curves. I suppose the title implies these resent fiber optic cables. So we're juxtaposing that against these single instances of white blobs that we'll see come to represent percussive sounds with usually sharp attack transients. Like look at these. The drums are hit by these small pockets of energy versus these long strands that interact with pretty much everything else. But listen to how that visually is reflected with the music. So we're seeing the visuals and music are totally paired together. The angular synths and drums are being complemented by these really smooth synth basses and pads. And ketchup and mustard too, they're foils of each other. So there's real sophistication here that I think people don't appreciate. Even not in the production, like in the composition. Listen to these polyrhythms. Like these salt shakers in the back are doing their like 3 against 2 business. And our grape jelly bass is literally doing drum, like they're doing like paradiddles. Don't know what the thing is with bass and purple, but ugh, and this drum break is so hip. It's so good. And I love that the salt shaker delay guys take this little solo And this is another solo that feels very improvised and very spontaneous. It's so smart. And look at how it's comped by the Mountain Dew folks just playing footballs. It's a perfect contrast. See, it's all about foils. And look at the green lights on top of the salt rack that's doing this. Such a great detail, and I feel like most people are gonna miss that. And if we're gonna demerit anything, I guess there isn't too much personality here. There's no floating drumsticks, thank God. But like, obviously there's no faces. There's nothing to connect with on that human level, at least. But I feel like we're experiencing something that's like more transcendent than that. This is like abstract. It's like a Picasso painting, you know? It's not the apple itself. It's the idea of the apple. Like, we're getting a glimpse into the human psyche. Do you understand? Like, we're seeing the concept of yin versus yang, sharp versus dull, crisscross, chocolate, vanilla, ketchup and mustard. I almost even wore my Basquiat shirt for this video. The art is on the back of it. Here, look. This is fiber bundles. This is what fiber bundles is. Shoving this one tightly into the A tier, folks. All right. So no hate to anybody. There's this thing on TikTok. There's this thing on TikTok where TikTok drummers will get incredibly innovative with how they're playing the drums and record the drums too. Like, they'll use mics as drumsticks or like dunking things in water or whatever. And like, sometimes it's really cool, but sometimes I feel like, hey, here we go. We're playing the drums. It's a normal beat, and then we're gonna hit the prop. Like, they're incorporating something that doesn't actually really feel natural to the beat, you know? Like, something that isn't elevating the music in any way. It's just like an extra cool thing. The point I wanna make is that in that instance, the prop comes before the music. That's kind of how I feel about this one. Gyro drums. These gyro drummers are much less concerned with making it feel good, making the groove have pocket, than they are with incorporating every prop they have access to. And there are some really sick moments. Again, like the changing time signatures is super fun. It a little bit feels like we're trying to replicate the magic of Drum Machine, and there are moments that do that, for sure. Obviously, this composition is very musically inspired by that one. Like, I'm definitely being kept on my toes. Visually, it's really cool to look at, too. But some of these aux percussion elements, especially the synthy electronic ones, like, there's something about it that feels too futuristic and too dated. Also, there are a few very subtle inconsistencies in the diegesis of this world that do bother me too. Like, check it out. It feels like the rule of this world is that all of the sound actually being produced is at the hands of the drummers, these gyro drummers. Like, I feel like with every track so far, it's either fully disembodied or fully bodied. And when there's a discrepancy there, you feel it. And so halfway through here, we have these shakers that come in that are moving on their own without any of the drummers shaking them. And I feel like that kind of betrays the premise set up at the beginning. And also, just on like a core level, I feel like this one never really grooves. Like, it has a lot of ideas, certainly builds and grows and develops them, but never really sits anywhere, which is what you want a drum percussion piece to do. Especially one with a pop backbeat. Like, as soon as we get to a good complexity level, we like immediately surpass it. And then we're here and like, okay, now it's way too complicated. There's so many notes flying at me. There's no pocket. And then the backbeat changes again. And I'm just like, it's another one where I feel like I'm just like, keep getting edged. And then it just kind of ends. So yeah, I don't think this one's good. I think it's not good. Unfortunately, F tier. And then I'm gonna film Heavy Light later.
Later.
Filming. Great. Cool. Hello? Okay. Heavy Light. I know I ragged on a couple of the tracks on disc 2 for doing this, but I like that overall, it does feel like a spiritual successor to the first DVD. For corresponding tracks too, I feel like this one especially is a spiritual successor to Harmonic Voltage. It's spacey, it's ethereal, but this one to me is a lot more grounded and strong. More so than any other number that came before, this one was really able to squeeze surprises into every nook and cranny. It grows so much further beyond what you could have possibly expected at the beginning. Like, truly, it's so epic. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to find any visual consistency with what notes are what. I'm talking about how the notes in the scale correspond to these lasers. Like, the length of the lasers and where they physically are on this pyramid don't have anything to do with the pitch of the notes, unfortunately. At least not that I've been able to catch. And that's at least the case for the yellow and red guys. For the bass, there's a very clear, like, that's high and that's low. And it's consistent with physics, like a smaller laser should be a higher note, and it is. While we're on the bass, and this is truly so small, it looks like the animation for these bass lasers don't take into account if you play more than one note in a row. Look, you can kind of see them retreat for a second and then pop back up. They're like, oh, no, no, no. When I rewatched this one, though, it didn't bother me as much because it makes it feel more alive and less robotic. As we've found with all 15 of these tracks, the key is balancing organic and synthetic components. Like, that's kind of the big theme for ANIMUSIC, you know what I mean? And in a way that Gyro Drums felt like it was anachronistic, this one to me feels timeless. Like, it's ancient and historical and religious almost, but it's also very sci-fi. It's really endearing and it's not dated at all. It's like I'm watching the Alien History Channel or something. And also when there's a time signature change here and there, it doesn't feel unnatural. It feels very natural. A dropped beat here and there in this context doesn't feel forced. It feels exciting. Ugh, and the lights that shine up into space, it's so fucking beautiful. And they let this one end. I like that Harmonic Voltage goes into the credits, but this one, I like that they let breathe. Very brilliantly done. It's so full circle. I kind of have no choice but to give this one an S tier. Yeah, I made up the rules. They can be whatever I want. One S tier per disc, except for Heavy Light. And that is all she wrote. For real, gang. Thanks for coming on this journey with me. I love being nerdy about shit I love. That's just what I love to do. I'm sure there's a million things I missed. And I'm sure the minute I hit upload on this video, I'm gonna think of a bunch more things to say about every one of these pieces. I briefly mentioned this at the beginning, but ANIMUSIC 3 was announced and successfully kickstarted, and the last update we got was in 2015. So we probably won't get an ANIMUSIC 3, which is sad only because I think that Lytle had a lot more contribution in him to the world of music. This company was a revolutionary force that made a immensely creative product that was able to bring inspiration to truly so many people. The DVDs were very popular, especially with kids. I know I'm not the only one that was into them. My dad was the one to show them to me when I was itty bitty. And watching them again makes me very nostalgic. Makes me think of my childhood home and my parents. And so I just want to spread the love a little bit. These DVDs deserve to be way more widely known than they already are. So I encourage you, let them bring you joy, let them bring you creativity, and allow that to let you bring joy and creativity to the world. Sorry I was unshowered for the first like 5 minutes. I filmed it at like 2 in the morning.